welcome to Shanmugam IAS Academy. Today's editorial analysis of 3rd November 2021, which we are going to see now, and a launch window for India as a space startup hub. And this is a very important important issue which was in the newspapers, and we need to know what it is exactly. And this comes under the UPSC mains GS paper 3, that is in science and technology, space technology. And this is very important. Some of you might be knowing well, some of you will be confusing about what it is exactly. So here I will be telling you briefly, not only briefly, I am telling you about how this topic is important for our examination and what is inside this and what are the past stories also I am going to tell in this video. And now let's move into the video and what it is exactly. So before going, why it is there and what is happening and what a launch window for India as a space startup hub. So what is this? So I will tell you the start. So what is exactly this means? That is, in order to enhance the diffusion of space technology. So to enhance the diffusion of space technology and boost space economy within the country. So for this only we are talking about the space startup hub. We all know many startups are there. So now here we are talking about the space startup hub. So for what it is there? Because we want to boost the space economy within the country. This is the main motive. So this is what about this editorial is about. And another thing, the Department of Space, under which only the ISRO, the other space technologies, everything comes under, other films and all. So the Department of Space desires, encourages the participation. So it desires and it encourages the participation. An important word, an important line is coming now, that is of private companies in space objectives. So the Department of Space told that to encourage the participation of private companies in space objectives and space activities. So this is important here. And the ISRO, the Indian Space Research Organization, shall complement the that is Department of Space in its objective of opening up the space sector to private industries. So it will help the that is Department of Space to for the opening up of the space sector to private industries. So this is what in the introduction is about. It is here. So now we will move into this and we'll study what is another important points in this editorial here. And this is not only editorial, this can be a you can write very good answer if there is a question on this topic, and this will cover all your mains topic, the mains answer writing and all. And also some of the lines which we are telling here are also covering up for the prelims point of view also. So here we need to be study, and we need to know which ministry, which department is responsible for that. I have told you that is Department of Space, and this is for opening up of the private industries in the space startups. This is what we are going to study now. And we all know that the great race has been the space race, which has started in 20th century, which was that time that was the Soviet Union by launching a Sputnik. By launch of Sputnik in 1957. This was where the space race was kicked off. And in the competition between these worlds, which proved that is test of their ideologies also. And we all know that the entire Cold War between the capitalists, that is United States, and the socialists, who are the Soviet Union. There was the war between these countries that time, and space race also originated in 1957, the form of the launching Sputnik. Okay, the space race is on again, but this time, now this is there. Why I am telling you the history? Because this was started at that time, and right now the space race is again on time, is again started. But this time, that that is between the nations, between the worlds. Now this is, but this time the private players are on the power field, that is power field means on the space track, to take the next leap for mankind and democratize the space uses to build the commercial value, which is very important. Now private players are also involving in the space technology, in the space race. So this is what they are telling it here, and this has the huge implications of for the original equipment manufacturers in the space sector in India. And I will be telling you the brief of what is India space sector is about, right? Till now, what we have and what happened in the past. So I will be telling you, I will be summing up with the brief of India space sector. The space related activities in India was started by setting up of Indian National Committee for Space Research, that we will be calling it shortly as INCOSPAR, Indian National Committee for Space Research, in 1962. Before ISRO, this was what we have started. However, this Indian space program, this began in 1969 with the establishment of the Indian Space Research Organization. Fine. So this is the brief history. 1962 we have started the Indian National Committee for Space Research, and after that in 1969 the Indian space program has been started, and there that paved the way for the establishment of the Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO. And India has created the Space Commission established by the, that is Department of Space, in 1972. This was, I am telling you the brief background, brief past story when we have started and what we have done. This is what I am telling you right now. June 1972, this Department of Space, which brought ISRO under the Department of Space in September 1972. So ISRO came under the Department of Space in September 1972. So these are all the factual things, and you can keep these things in mind. This can be helpful for your prelims and also for your mains too. And Department of Space performs the responsibility of promoting the development of space science technology and application towards achieving the self-reliance and assisting the all-around development of India. So this Department of Space, this department is responsible for all the promotion of the space science, technology, everything to achieve the self-reliance and assisting all around the development in India. So this is what the work of the Department of Space. Under this only we have ISRO, and it came in September 1972 under this. Fine. And after that, today the space economy is more than, that is $440 billion in the global. I am not talking about our country, about the global sector. This much is the space economy. But what our in this, what we are doing in this, what is our contribution in this, with India having less than 2% share in this sector. More than $440 billion has been spent the space economy in the global sector. We are having less than 2% share in this sector. So despite of the fact that India is a leading spacefaring country, this is a good point, with end-to-end capabilities to make satellites and develop the augmented launch vehicles. We all know that the launch vehicle, the PSLV, the GSLV, the launch vehicles, and deploy interplanetary missions. And the early stage investments in the space technologies, that is the financial year 2021, were $68 billion. But what is the India's contribution in that? India was on the 4th place with the investment is in about 110 firms, 110 companies, totaling not more than 2 billion. So not more than 2 billion, India's contribution is this, and India was standing in the 4th place with the investments. And according to a report of the government of India, created a new organization. This is important. This can be there because this was started in 2020, but right now this is in the news because of these things. So we need to know this. This is an important point in the form of prelims and mains too. The government of India created a new organization which is known as Inspace. What is Inspace? Indian National Space Promotion and Authorization Center. Indian National Space Promotion and Authorization Center. That in shortly we will be calling that as Inspace. What it do? Which is a single window nodal agency. And what is its work? It is established to boost the commercialization of Indian space activities. So 3 points I have told you. Indian government has started the Inspace, and For what? It is a single window nodal agency, and for what? It is established to boost the commercialization of Indian space activities. This is an important point for prelims too, because questions and the objectives can be confusing, so we need to know this. And in science and technology there can be a question too. And a supplement to the Indian Space Research Organization, the agency promotes the entry of non-government private parties. This is important because Indian Space, this is ISRO, the agency, this promotes the entry of non-government private parties in the Indian space sector. This is a great move, and this is there in the past too, but now this is following because the agency will also facilitate a swift boarding of the private players in this sector. So our agency, that is ISRO, is facilitating the swift boarding of the private players in the space sector by encouraging with the policies that is friendly regulatory environment, and by creating the synergies and creating the facilities, and this is what is said by the government report. So the ISRO is facilitating to participate the private players in the space sector. And what the private players contribution in the Indian space, now we'll study with that. So this is how you have to frame an answer in the mains too, and in between points are important for prelims too, and I have told where what points are important. So now we'll coming into the what I am talking about the private sector. Now we will see what is the private sector contribution in the Indian space. So with all the missions being handled by the ISRO themselves, the contribution of the private sector in the space programs often goes unrecognized. So this was there in the past, but the contribution of the private sector is unrecognized in the space program. This is what we are telling now, but the important point to describe is the contributions of private agencies in the Indian space missions. What are the contributions of the private players? The large part of the manufacturing rockets and assets is done by the private sector. This we need to know. Large part of the manufacturing of the rockets and assets is done by the private sector, but more and more research institutions have started showing involvement and interest in the space missions, and this is a good point because the research institutions, that is like the TAFR, the Tata Institute of Research Center, and other research institutions have started and showing the involvement in the interest in the space missions. This is a good point, and with this the involvement of the private sector in the space missions and more capital may be generated, because the private sectors who have capital with them, this private sector can invest in the space missions though. So in this way the more capital may be generated which can expand the space missions widely. So with this more capital which are generated from the private sector in the space missions, we can expand the space missions widely. The demand for satellites and space assets has also been increasing with the requirement of Earth observation satellites. These days, now we know that the Earth observation satellites are increasing. So by the involvements of these private players in the space sector, we have very increasing requirement because of Earth observing satellites, because for to monitor that is the climate changes are happening. We are seeing so much of natural calamities, or the missions to save the space assets from debris have also been initiated by ISRO. And the Inspace which was launched by the government in 2020 will also prove to be a benefit in the department as well. And the establishing of Indian National Space Promotion and Authorization Center, that is Inspace, I have told you, the structural reforms in space administration that are being carried out would prepare India to prove itself as a space faring nation both scientifically and commercially. So by introducing this Inspace, we will have so many reforms in the space administration which proving itself as a space faring nation both scientifically and commercially. The government of India has launched the year 2020 the Indian Space Promotion and Authorization Inspace to promote the main purpose of this. I have told you in my starting of the video itself, and now also I am telling the main purpose of the Inspace, which is launched by the government of India to promote private investment and innovation in the Indian space industry. And Inspace have its own legal technological activity promotion and monitoring directorates and its board. In Inspace, what it is doing, the directorates and the board is comprised of not only the government sector, government of India, but the board will comprise of the members from the private industry, academia, that is the researchers, and also from the government of India. So this was from all these players participation is done by this Inspace. This is a good move, and India will act as a national nodal agency for boosting and promoting the private industry in the space domain and help private players. So we need to have reforms. We need to make them to participate. The environment in the space system has to be very transparent, very it has the private players. They should come for the national nodal agency. They are boosting and promoting these private industries in the space domain, and also we are helping the private players too. So what this Inspace facilitates? What are the points here? These are important points I am telling you right now. The providing technical support. The Inspace, what is doing to the private sectors? They are providing the technical support to them, and apart from that, they are also sharing the cash intensive facilities with the private industry. This is a good move, and allowing the establishing temporary facilities in the Department of Space premises, and allowing the private players to bid for requirements coming from new space are limited. So the Inspace is the institutional and regulatory mechanism established by the government of India to facilitate greater private participation. This was established to facilitate the greater private participation, and also the financial provisions are not covered under this mechanism. This is a move, and the private entities need to be considered as the part of the system. So this is what they are saying. Currently, many of the private entities are involved in the equipment and frame manufacturing with either outsourced specifications or released licenses. So here, the Indian space private companies need to generate their intellectual property for an independent product or service. The example, the satellite-based broadband. This is an example. So they need to generate their intellectual property. And also with ISRO, neither their sole or large consumer nor providing them the IP, that is, which was how most suppliers in the Indian space ecosystems were born over the last 3 decades. This will help open the door to the global markets. So this is a good point, and we now next point what I am saying, these are all important from the prelims and mains too. So the mature space agencies such as the NASA, that is National Aeronautics and Space Research Space Administration of the United States, and China National Space Administration like ISRO, and Russia's Roscosmos. Roscosmos is the state corporation for space activities. This is Russia. So these things you need to know, and this what is happening in the global space sector, because why this is there, because these space administrations, these space agencies will seek support from the private players such as Boeing, the aircraft manufacturing company, and the SpaceX. Recently we see the SpaceX has launched, and the Blue Origin for complex operations beyond the manufacturing support. They are supporting in the space agencies, the space activities such as sending crew and supplies to the international space stations. This is a great example I have given you here. The space agencies of the other nations, and they are getting the support from the private players such as the Boeing, SpaceX, and the Blue Origin examples. And what they are doing, they are sending their crew and supplies to the international space station. And another crucial aspect of the space law is insurance and indemnification clarity, and this is also is there, that is the for purpose the NASA and the CNS, that is Chinese National Space Agency, award for a part of their annual budget they provide to the players. And until 2018, SpaceX was a part of 30 missions of NASA. So this is a private company, this is a part of this 30 missions of the NASA, and it is getting over $20 billion under contract. This is a good for both the space industry and for the private players too, and for the governments too, for the space agencies too. So this is a great step. This is what we are also making our private players to participate in the space missions and the space projects. And finally, we know that is already there are more than 350 plus startups such as, example I am taking the Agnikul, Cosmos, Skyroot Technologies, Dhruva Space, and Pixel have established the film grounds for the homegrown technology. This is our startups. Example, I have told you the names, the practical unit of economics. And India currently stands on the cusp of building a space ecosystem. Now we are trying to build a very good space ecosystem, and with ISRO being its guiding body. So ISRO will be its guiding body. India can now evolve as a space startup hub for the world. So what is our motto? What is our futuristic thing? Because we want to evolve as a space startup hub for the world. The sector is embryonic stage. It is in the starting stage. That is they said where the possibilities are limitless, with a scope to build a feasible business model. Now it is difficult, but we are developing this, and this to ensure that the sky is not the limit. Investor confidence needs to be pumped, and for the same clear laws need to be defined. Very good point here by the ending of this editorial. The sky is not the limit and the investor confidence needs to be pumped, and the laws to be very clear to make these private players to come in the space technology, the space missions. So this is what they are saying. By this I am concluding this editorial. If you have any doubts and queries, please tell us in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you.